Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News on the South Florida Conservative News Center. It is Thursday, September 25th, around 11 o'clock, and I can finally go out and shave off my faux operator beard, because the story of John Shrek McPhee and all the other people being maligned by bullies. Whoever thought tier one operators could be bullied? Well, they can. And the story is almost completely over. Who cares about what goes on at this point? But it was brought to an end by a YouTube influencer from the Navy, a Navy guy, not a Navy SEAL, just a whatever he did, medical thing, I think. Nicky Mgtv. I'll put a thing to his nuclear articles so you can see what was going on. Those of you who realize what's happened is the little guys, myself, some of the other guys that knew this was all some kind of bullshit clout chasing thing, since we are so much smaller and will never get any bigger on YouTube for sure. We'll get bigger someplace else, but not on YouTube. Realize that telling people the truth when people are lying, openly lying about different folks is very hard to do, because the algorithm loves lies. It loves that type of stuff. But a guy who's a little bit bigger than you, which is what Nicky was compared to Tank Top, which we'll now call Valhalla VFT, I think it was, and the Anti-Hero podcast, uh, he stepped right in because it seems the Tank Top was calling him all kinds of cocksuckers and this, that, and the other thing, disparaging his proud naval tradition. And we're not going to have that, is what Nicky must have said, and started dropping some bombs. It turned out, of course, as we would have figured, that he himself, the famous Green Beret guy from Valhalla, also lied about his exploits in country, I guess we would say. And that's taken out and shown on the videos there. What I had always thought was hinky with that paperwork, turns out it was probably hinky with that paperwork. The only difference was Valhalla didn't have it first. I believe if you look at an older video or two from uh, Antihero, the fellow who left Antihero, who was supposedly also in the tier one operation, he brought it up a while ago. So I have a feeling that what happened, as I mentioned in these videos, you can't keep doing things that criticize command and expect that somebody's not going to hear about it. And in and among all this other shit that was going on, there was another guy who's an influencer called, I think it's Mike Hilksteth. His last name's Hooksteth, whatever. Doesn't matter to me, because we were like so almost famous here 4 times in a row. I had taken a class with John, so I had that thing going on. They attacked like Tegan from Benghazi, right? I had done a show with him, a 9-line show up in Delray a couple of years ago. A friend of mine, Rustin, and myself, Mike, and Tegan, his dog. We did a 9-line show and then a book signing. So it's like, God damn it, I don't know any of these. I don't know much about the military, but I seem to know all the guys that are getting into these fights. Here, that was also a friend of couple friends of some people from the other podcast who were in the Delta team that was at the embassy in Benghazi and have applied for the Medal of Honor for themselves, when it turns out that did not do anything really meritorious to receive the medal, let alone to receive I think they got the Navy Service Cross or something like that. I forget. It's right below, whatever's right below Medal of Honor. These two guys applied for it and got in a fight with Tegan and uh, Peranto and a couple of the other ones over what they really did. And now they found a third party who was there, affidavitted that this was all bullshit. So that all went on since we've last talked. Crazy, right? It's like there's no real crisis in the world that we could have been dealing with, like the Chinese or the Muslim Brotherhood or anything like that. We have these guys going nuts because it's about the guilt, right? Or is it about perception of who does what, where, when, and why? And whatever occurred between them, when I had put the last video up, I had somebody from A Squadron who had said certain things about John in a positive way and about the bullshit that was going on. And the reason he thought they were bringing this up, which is on the BitChute or Rumble, out of respect for the guy, I've taken his name down. That part is up, but you'd have to go look for it because I'm not out here to fuck with guys that have put their time in and are being, straight up about things. So it seems that this other Hooksteth guy had done a lot of interviews with a lot of these Delta guys somehow or another. Now he has a real history. Go on to Wikipedia and see who he used to work for in the journalism world. I wouldn't have talked to him, but that's just me. And so he was like everybody's buddy. But the fellow who posted to my page was immediately contacted by somebody who's representing with him, and they wanted to talk about the thing that this guy thought was the issue that nobody wanted to bring up. And then I guess a week later, Hookseth, has to take all of his Delta videos down. He's the only person who's had to take down any interviews with Delta Force operators. Everybody else, Sean Ryan has his up. Team House, I think it was, which is a pretty good show. If you watch that, I had it because I knew a couple of the old like Vietnam era guys, but he had to take his down. So it would make one assume that following that Fort Bragg cartel book that came out, the Tell All, that somebody was getting ready to put another shot into the side of the Special Operations Command with another tell all or whatever article or book, which would have embarrassed them at the beginning of the global war on terror. And if you know what was going on at the beginning, I don't have to draw you a map as to what we're talking about here. So that all went on. This has all been exposed through this Nicky Mgtv show in a very clever way and just puts everybody's dick in the dirt over the whole thing. Really good work, really solid. And if they hadn't attacked him and called him names, he probably would have just rolled through it clearly. But that's what happens when you're a bully, and you're a bully that is hiding your own not so crystal clear track record in the service. It boggles my mind what this is all about. Boggles the mind, but it's not good for recruiting. It's not good for the image of the service. It's not good for the United States in general to have these guys out there fighting like a bunch of ex-cheerleaders, right? You knew what you were getting into when you take a job. You know what you're getting paid when you get a job. I don't know what to tell you. But the fact of the matter is when people knew things were wrong, nobody was stepping in except for one or two people. Everybody was more than happy to jump on the bandwagon, woohoo, and do this shit. One or two people jumped off at the end, which was good. But like I said, they closed down. They didn't close down uh, Anti-Hero, but the fellow from Delta left. He's going to go on to some other show. Not to start a fight with those guys. He was the one who mentioned he had documentation on McPhee, and I think they would push it over to Tank Top. And since Tank Top had a hard on for everybody who had a bigger career than him, he was the one who would be like the thin edge of the wedge to fuck you over. He was the Blue Falcon, I think they used the term for the operation, because he was getting more out of it. All the views, all the this, all the that. And like I said, I had said to him a number of times, show us all these documents. Well, you couldn't because these were probably obtained in an illegal fashion. They weren't obtained under a FOIA because Nicky went and tried to get the stuff under FOIA, and it's not how it works. You don't get the documentation that they were alluding to unless somebody, maybe the ex-girlfriend or something like that, decides to fuck you over and do something about it. So that was great. I'm hoping that that other fellow who came on, who was a positive, the guy without the shirt, I think Clay Dixon or something. He was great. Hey, if we ever could get him on in here in an interview, it would be wonderful. He just seemed to have a great way about doing business. So that's the twists and turns. I'll put the things in there for the Nicky videos. It gives you everything. Why would I want to take the guy's fame from him when he did the number? And once he started knocking those pins down, all these guys just started running for fucking cover. I believe that they got a call from command that they were getting ready to put themselves in a position where they were going to expose, uh, I wouldn't say national secrets, but operational issues from the beginning of the global war, things that occurred. And the problem that they have is a couple of the guys that I knew would say, "What the fuck's the matter with them?" Because the guys are still in the service. They were maybe lieutenant colonels when this happened, and they're generals. They're like, "How old is the general staying?" The general stays in until he can get 200 stars and then he retires. Dummy. So that's the story there. Otherwise, like I said, Nikki, you're all right. Some of the other guys that tried to stay out of it or stayed out of it afterwards, Green Beret Chronicles, he was pretty good with getting out of it at the end. But at the beginning, see, this was all clouded over by, at the end of the day, Tim Kennedy is still a liar. That's all you have to say. All these other people who were harassed and harangued and threatened and this and that and the other thing maybe lost money. I don't know. Whatever the story is, you just don't do this, especially if you're quote unquote from some organization. We're all brothers. Anytime somebody tells me they're my brother, it usually turns out that I'm going to get one in the ass. That's how brotherhoods work. So, otherwise, have a good day. We'll talk about more real stuff later on, but I thought you'd like that final. It's not final, but it's pretty final. A lot of bad people got some kind of comeuppance, not the comeuppance you wanted, but it got done. And a lot of it was done through the activities of some more socially conscious and moral influencers, if that's ever a thing. So have a good day. Talk to you later.